I've been trying to put off this conversation for a minute, mainly because I just didn't want to cover it because it was literally this exact same thing as we see in every other instance when people come to talk about lollies. Oh, they don't like it, and all this type of stuff, and basically everything that we usually cover on this channel. I was not originally going to cover it because of that, because it's just someone that doesn't necessarily know what type of situation this kind of is. And I was just gonna leave it at that. I was like, oh, Nux just doing this thing, it's whatever. I don't like it, but it's whatever. But it has escalated to a point, and especially when it comes to like just people, their communities, both Revs and like Nuxes, to the point I feel like I should probably maybe say something, not necessarily trying to like, I guess, be one-sided or like displaying hate for either man, but just like kind of saying what's on my mind about it, and just kind of, I guess, form my own opinions on where I see it, because there's a lot. I don't know if I'm going to end this video or not, but I do want to at least say what's on my mind when it comes to it, because it is, I think, important. And as someone that has covered, lolly stuff for over a year now, and when as far as, again, look at the history of it, talk to people in the community, at least learn about it some, I feel like I should get some type of idea down on what this whole thing is, especially to this degree, because let's be honest, this whole thing is a bit ridiculous. Also, before we begin, Koikatsu commissions, just if you want to have some nice Koikatsu stuff, hit me up on Twitter so we can see what we want to do with your, commission, because that junk is actually kind of fun. Now, I won't be recapping the entire situation because I'm pretty sure everybody knows about the situation and has a lot of the context when it comes to it, so I'm not necessarily going to recap of it, but I'm definitely just going to lay down a few things about what I think and how I see things. Basically, obviously, Nux doesn't really care for, well, he claims he doesn't mind lolly, but he doesn't like lolicon content, which, I'll be perfectly honest, that's fine. If you don't necessarily like the lolicon content, it's fine, but it depends on how you go about it after that point forward, and how you kind of just deal with it. Granted, if you like lolly, you pretty much should just go into lolicon content too, just because, so you don't be so bothered by it, but at the very same time, it is what it is. He also said that he was uncomfortable with the content too, and that's perfectly fine. Again, I said this many times before, if you don't like lolicon content, that's fine. We're not here to sit here and try to, make you force yourself to like it because we like it. We're not necessarily trying to force anyone to like this entire material, because even I will admit, it can be looking a bit weird when it comes to like the normal side of things, right? Any average human being that sees this and never has seen this before will probably deem it weird, and that's understandable. But at the same time, you don't need to necessarily go out your way to just, hammer down on people or try to, I guess, shut them down, or like basically just shit talk people or whatever because you don't like a certain subject. If you don't like a subject, then you can either do a few things: ignore it, move on, or like, say that you don't like it, but you don't have to be a complete asshole about it and then go on about your day. That's perfectly fine. We wouldn't even have this video if that was the case, but that's not the case now, is it? Because obviously he didn't do that. So yeah. And again, another thing too, as I said many times before, I hate when people, and I have to probably just get used to this reality, but that people will just talk about lolly just because. But you can't just tackle lolly as a normal topic. It's not a normal topic. You just can't. Even if it's, oh, he's just fake, it's not even that big of a deal. Yeah, it might be fake and fictional, but it is a big deal to a lot of people on the internet. Why? I don't necessarily know, and it's not even that really big of a deal, if I'm being honest. But to the internet, it's a fat deal. And it is very strange, but it is what it is, and we do have to bring it up at some point in time, because there's people out there that doesn't even know what lolly even means. They think it's like, oh, meaning something about real people, when that's not the case, especially because majority of the time you will see people talk about lolly, it's in an anime context. That's basically anytime you'll see that, and it's so crazy that people don't necessarily know what a lolly is or what the term of it actually is. And it just does nothing but, you know, keep making like more confusion. And especially in this type of instance, it makes more misinformation about what lolly is, because, you know, people are not necessarily like getting it, especially when it comes to like arguments like this, and it just doesn't help anyone. But my thing is, for someone that's very uncomfortable with lolly Jinsai, you really like to use it a lot in your previous videos. Now, if you check them out now, obviously someone will be like, but Jay, they don't have lolly content in their thumbnails and stuff. That's not what it is. That's something completely different. Well, that's because they changed it. And don't even try to hide. It's like the Suburban Olympics. I don't know if anybody watched that video yet with RDC World, but like, it's like the Suburban Olympics. You're talking about, oh, F it, change your thumbnails. Oh, that's fine, because guess what? I already called people, so they already know what to do. And you better just stay right there and accept what you did, because we already got it archived on the internet. So, you know, it's already recorded. So, I mean, they coming on their way. They finna hold you down. So, I mean, it's out of my hands. So, honestly, it literally is like archived by a whole ass account about the thumbnail, so you can't necessarily say he didn't have those thumbnails. And honestly, if he ever does mention it, I wouldn't be surprised if he brushed it off like, oh, I didn't create those thumbnails, it's like my editor did or something like that. And then that would just be like crazy. But hopefully he doesn't do that, because to be perfectly honest, it would just be very stupid, because you're putting someone else's, you know, problem, you're putting your own problem on someone else, and then that would just be very bad, honestly. So I don't necessarily think he's stupid enough to do something like that. But you never know. Have low expectations. You never know. Now I will give Nux a few, at least, points, because he did come up with some parts where he's just like, oh, like, I'm friends with this VTuber that's like a lolly and stuff, and like, oh, you think that's like a big deal? To be fair, yeah, that's kind of like a low point, I'll be honest. It's not necessarily like the biggest thing in the world, even if that is the case, because, you know, anybody could do that and then still not be into the subject. So honestly, that's kind of like the low point, but that's like the only point I could give this man. That's about the only point I am willing to give, because everything else is just like, what are you actually on about, dude? For starters, and I took notes, Rev said, well, not Rev, but Nux said Rev plays the victim in his videos, which, no, he does not, because if you paid attention to his videos, even a person that is unsubscribed from his channel, that, you know, might not necessarily watch him all the time, even if someone that was like that, for instance, they could probably tell you that's not the case. The only time I remember Rev, like saying something about, you know, him in a situation is like when YouTube is like trying to go after him, or, you know, not trying to pay him, or potentially not necessarily giving him his silver play button, which he should have been gotten. But other than that, he literally does not, like, you know, play a victim in any of this. If anything, he covers like the victim in the story, and then he kind of tells them the whole thing when it comes to the news of the day, you know? And then anytime there is not like a victim, or just like a statement someone made or something like that, that everybody's seen and know is stupid, then yeah, he'll go ahead and try to bash on them, because yeah, it's a stupid comment, they really shouldn't have said it. But he never really played the victim, honestly. At least I've never seen. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I'd never really seen Rev play the victim card, and he even mentioned himself many times that, you know, the victim card is stupid. So I don't necessarily see that as a thing. I don't know where he got that from, but, you know, it's just more fuel to the fire, which that's obvious to see. And he also brought up someone named Emmy OK, and I don't know, and I'll be honest, I don't know much about this person. I don't know anything about them at all, or the situation. But for, like, I guess Nux was like, oh, he hated her because she didn't like lolly content or something like that. But that's not the information I have here. The only information I have here, or at least what I read in my notes, and I think VTuber Cringe posted this, was talking about that she did some, or like was associated with animal abuse at some point in time. Which, now I don't know the context, but if she ends up doing, or she did do some animal abuse type of stuff, and actually she was like the one that was doing it, then yeah, that's fair. That's fair to hate her. I ain't gonna even hold you. That's kind of fair. And I'm not even like the biggest person that's like like really concerned when it comes to animals and stuff. But I care to a degree. I care to a degree of it. You know, I don't want to see any animal getting harmed or die. And while I'm not necessarily like the biggest person when it comes to it, it kind of sucks when it happens. Like I lost my dog like some years back, and it still sucked. But like if someone is actually actively abusing animals, then yeah, that's pretty bad. That's not necessarily something that you can just gloss over or brush off. Honestly, it's not great. And then people sometimes question me, why do you have like low expectations of people? Mainly because humans are not necessarily the greatest thing on the planet, right? If we're being perfectly honest, humans makes plenty of mistakes. They make plenty of different types of wrong things when it comes to down to themselves, and they never do it right in some shape or form. Which is why I have low expectations of pretty much. I don't want to say everyone, but pretty much a good chunk of people. Let's be perfectly honest. Now, the reason why I have that too is also because if they do something good, I want to be shocked. I want to be shocked and I want to be surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Especially if it's someone that's previously has done bad, but it actually is doing pretty decently. That's how I feel. A big example would be like Logan Paul when he did like the S Side Forest incident, honestly, and everybody hated him for that. And now he's matured up, wised up a little bit, and now he's like in WWE doing like top dollar matches and stuff, actually holding it down, and hasn't, at least as far as I know of, gotten into any type of trouble recently. And I'm like, okay, good on you, Logan. Do good, you're doing good. But I'm not keeping like, I guess I'm not necessarily forgetting his past either. Like, I keep it in the back of my brain just in case, like, okay, if something does happen, it's to be expected. And that's kind of like why I have low expectations. I want those expectations to be wrong. I want to be wrong, honestly, when it comes to it, because if someone is doing better and they keep doing better and they continue to do better, if forever was doing better, then, oh yeah, that's pretty good. And, hopefully they don't ever stoop that low to that place where they once were ever again. And that's my whole expectation. But I keep that just because, like, someone's doing better now doesn't mean I just forget about what they done. I'm still keeping it in the back of my head. Kind of like how, and we talked about this before, I'm kind of getting tired of talking about it, honestly. But LXOX34, obviously, is like one of the people I really don't care for because of an incident they pulled in 2020 with Kyoto, with, like, her and some other people before she rebranded. And, like, they cyberbullied her to a harsh degree, so much to the point they try to file out like child abuse reports on Twitter against her, and it's like, what? So yeah, even though you rebranded now and you're trying like to do your own thing, and she's still messing up, by the way, but when she's trying to do her own thing, I'm like, you might try to do your own thing now, but I'm not necessarily forgetting the past. Like, it's going to be in the back of my head, so of course I'm gonna have low expectations of that person. So that's just how I feel genuinely with like a lot of people that has failed in the past, because let's be perfectly honest, every single content creator you see on this platform has done something in the past that we are not proud of. Let's be perfectly honest, we probably have done something in the past that we're not necessarily proud of. For me, it was just trying to get canceled on purpose, and and then when Alice freaking like blasted me, then obviously I really saw the truth of it, and then I had to apologize for that. But like, we all done something in the past that we're not proud of, let's be perfectly honest. But it's how you act in the future, and if you you just don't go back to that low point, basically. Also, one time Nux did say he didn't watch Rev's content too, which he only said he only watched like the one video where he got bashed by him, and then liked him after that. I don't. Nux is weird, but yeah, that's like the only thing, which goes to show and is kind of further evidence that yeah, he doesn't watch his content because he's just making guesses about his channel. And yeah, while you could say, oh, all Rev does is like make content over small people making dumb mistakes and stuff, You could say that, but at the same time, there's kind of like a solid reason, just in, oh, I'm just gonna bully these channels or like these smaller accounts for no reason, because they do make dumb takes, and if they gain traction, then of course, it's like, it doesn't make any type of sense. Of course, I would say something about it, much less when it comes down to things. People do believe these dumbass takes, so of course, if someone is gonna have a dumb take and people actually believe it, yeah, I'm gonna try to seal that down and try to take it down as quickly as possible, or at least try to make it a priority at some point in the future to handle that situation, because it's already annoying enough when people don't know anything about lolis at all. So having them to come through and try to say something, that's also very annoying. It's like, in not necessarily knowing what the subject is also something that's like harsh, and like it's hard to deal with, honestly, because so many people will just believe face value of what someone says, and it's just like really ridiculous without doing any type of research at all. Also, he at one point says that, he jokes about, oh, there's like a loli community, like, oh, the loli community, that's a thing, or is the VTubing community as a thing? Because half the time people in the VTubing, sphere don't necessarily know if they are a community or not. Some of the people don't even know if they are even like actual VTubers or not, honestly. How we know that VTubers that just have a Twitter account is just not, is VTubers? They're probably just VTubers, if anything, and that's pretty much all they ever kind of do be a lot of the time when it comes to free debuts. Or how many times that we have like seen the VTubing community end up becoming like this, looking on the outside like this holy place, this very appreciative place where everybody got your back and everything, but in reality it's just a whole nother war zone where everybody's trying to kill each other for clout, and getting attention of people just to suck off the top people. Like, it's literally a competition in the VTubing space, and it sucks, right? Like, when it first started, I had hope, but now it's just like it's trash. Like, let's be honest, the VTubing community don't even know if it's a community or not. Like, it is what it is. And then you sit here and just joke about the loli community. Yes, the loli community is a thing that exists. It is what it is, whether you like it or not. And when it comes down to things, everything, like I said before, everything has its community, everything has its fan base, everything has like an audience of its own. Lolis is no different, because if that was the case, why do companies sometimes, especially these companies that focus in like anime-ish material, why do they keep making these loli short characters like this and market it towards people? Because people like that shit, so of course they're gonna make bank off of it. And yeah, because they know loli is like a community in itself. People will give a damn about loli characters in some shape or form, whether you like it in a lewd way or not. So it is what it is. I'm gonna try to close it out on this point here, because it is also cold as hell in this room I'm recording in. My hands is literally freezing, but I want to close out on this like point here, is that Nux has been canceled so damn much to the point it's utterly ridiculous. And any other time he gets canceled now, he could just easily brush it off as a joke. Maybe this was his plan the entire time. Maybe this is what he meant by being like some kind of chaotic being or something like that. Because a situation like this, because this type of situation, now he can just kind of just brush off like it's nothing. And even though it is kind of a serious situation, and of course he will joke off and say that's not really that so much of a serious situation, because let's be perfectly honest, getting canceled means absolutely nothing on the internet anymore. It really doesn't. Like, the whole EDP thing with the whole cupcake thing, honestly, man came back on TikTok, has a huge following on TikTok, and you mean to tell me someone that's actually out there trying to harm real people and do some horrible things, man is out there having a huge following? That just shows you that cancellation just honestly doesn't mean jack anymore. Someone could probably kill somebody and get canceled and then come back like it's nothing, just because. And it's so weird. It really is weird. It just doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm kind of saying, like, even when Nux got canceled, technically, yeah, he got canceled, but at the same time, does it do anything? Not really, because cancellation just doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, and it's sad, but it is what it is. And when it comes down to things as well, the whole thing when it comes to like the loli stuff too, it's just all this does is just have him going around saying that, oh, Loli just it's like a gray area, or it's not like anything that's like important or anything like that. But it's quite literally the backbone of anime when it comes down to things. And the thing is too, when people try to like, oh, let's try to ban this type of thing, you don't realize the consequences of what's going to happen. There's a chain reaction that will happen if you ban Loli or try to get rid of Loli in some shape or form. You're going to end up getting everything else canceled and banned. Like Pixar, when they try to get rid of lolicon content, they didn't just get rid of lolicon content, they tried to get rid of like other stuff like Guro and non-consensual pictures and like other type of material. And it's like, how do you not see the chain reaction when it comes to this? It's so weird. People have this, oh, we have to basically attack now but answer later mentality. And it's like, does no one stop and think? Like, what would happen if this happened, honestly? But no one does that. It's just, we have to attack now, and then we'll deal with the consequences later. And then when you find out about the consequences, you're like, oh shit, we didn't want this. And then you try to fix it, and you can't necessarily fix it because you already just jacked it up yourself. I can also pretty much say that Nux is not a friend of Ref. Let's be perfectly honest with this too. Because what type of friend go out their way to be like, oh yeah, hope nothing but the best for you, but hopefully low-key get ran over by a damn car because you kind of deserve it, and hopefully your channel goes down. But you know, equally deserved. You know, you just don't necessarily need to be around here anymore. But still, have the best of luck. What type of friend is that? Like, dead ass. Even when I told one of my IRL people, my best friend, like, you know, that, yo, I'm talking about Loli and stuff now, because it's like, he's getting kind of views, and it's kind of interesting of a topic. Even he kind of questioned me. He was like, are you sure you good and stuff? I'm like, yeah. And we were talking about it, and I was like, really, I feel like you are fine if you have it, but also if you like other characters too that's not Loli. Like, I feel like you should be fine as well if you're into that. But like, if you have like other maybe big boob characters or something like that you like to jerk off to, that's probably fine. And we kind of come to an agreement, and he hasn't questioned me about it ever since. And he might not like it himself, but he, like, it never jeopardized our friendship, our IRL friendship, because obviously a real life friendship sometimes mean like it can be a benefit. Honestly, it can be a true benefit sometimes, instead of just, you know, having online people. Not saying that online people ain't like a benefit at all, because it is, but I'm just saying that sometimes having the real people right there by you is sometimes a lot more helpful than, or at least it's like it's something that you need. It's a benefit, honestly. And that's something that honestly a lot more content creators should think about, is that you shouldn't just disabandon your your friendships and relationships and stuff, but definitely you should just like keep them around, but don't let but obviously you shouldn't just like completely disregard them. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But he didn't once like bash me, telling something, I hope you get ran over by a freaking car or something like that, or like, you know, hopefully you lose everything you got because you deserve it or something like that. Which we've been through a similar situation with another person that tries to start beef for me, but you know, that was a smaller beef and I ain't gonna necessarily worry about that. But at the same time, it's just like, you don't say that type of stuff and then try to be friends. Like, at that point, no, I want the same for you. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? Like, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. It's weird, and it doesn't necessarily make any kind of sense. So when it comes down to things of this whole NuxTaku versus Rev says Desu drama, honestly, I'm going to lean more to Rev's side. I'm not gonna hold you. The only other thing that I would say that I hate about this situation is that when people cover this, or people cover something that's Loli-esque and stuff, is that they try to cover it but don't pick a side, and it's like, or don't say anything about it, and then just like, who is this benefiting? Who is this dead ass benefiting? This doesn't help any at all. Like, you should either say something about it, or, you know, pick a side if you want to, but they don't necessarily do that, and it's so frustrating. It's why Loli's in this like predicament as it is as a topic. And as far as we go when it comes to this, you know, argument between Rev and Nux, who's benefiting from it? No one's benefiting from it. Let's be perfectly honest, because if they were, then something other than this would be happening right now. There would be plenty of responses by now, plenty of videos if this was like something like that. I know Rev is not necessarily, well, if he does make a response to that, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't necessarily think it would benefit him, because all it will do is just probably make everybody think of him as like maybe like some type of sour loser on the people that's probably the side of Nux and stuff. And really, Rev doesn't necessarily like have any type of thing to benefit from it. Maybe just from a little bit of clout, but I don't think Rev really cares about clout like that. He'll probably just get it on his own way. And then Nux side, like, he could do it, but then I think he has more to lose than Rev does, because obviously maybe a sponsor might drop him, or like, you know, he might necessarily be seen as a good guy because he's cyberbullying a smaller account or something, or, you know, it's like, I feel like there's more thing that's like more to lose on Nux's side than Rev. But because honestly, I feel like Nux would be like, you know, just, he would jeopardize himself basically. So that's why he probably just did the video on Nuxanor versus like, you know, just make a whole ass thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel when it comes to it. But it also is another douchey move. I keep adding on things. It just, there's so much to this. But there's also like another thing too, where this man was just like, oh, I actually, YouTube be watching my channel now because I've been shadow banned or whatever. So I'm not necessarily gonna make a video about Rev or anything like that, because you know, I'm not necessarily gonna be that type of guy or anything like that. But like, I could absolutely destroy this man's channel if I wanted to, but I'm not gonna necessarily do that. And then have these narcissistic ass threats, and it's just like, what type of BS is this? What in the fresh hell is this, honestly? And it's so wild. Man is out here thinking, oh, I can low-key destroy his channel if I want to. I can play literal God over his channel if I want to. But, you know, I'm not necessarily going to do that because I'm not that type of guy. If this was any other situation, I guarantee you he would have probably done it. I guarantee you. You know? That's so messed up to think about, honestly. That's honestly messed up to think about. That there's a potential chance that he could do it and ruin Rev's like whole YouTube thing, and it's like, what in the actual F is happening? Like, it's so messed up, you know. And then also just the amount of shit talking he did to Rev, honestly, it's just very annoying, just not great. Especially when he's just like, oh, he's a small Loli community that has to stand up for his, like, yes, they had to stand up because, again, no one thinks of the consequences. Also, mother effer, I'm out here trying to make content about this too, trying to defend it as well. So don't act like Rev is the only person here. Granted, no offense, Rev, but hey, I've been trying to fight too, you know? I'm not trying to make this about me or anything, but like, come on. Give me my props sometimes. I'm tired of being a damn ghost. But still, like, all in all, in seriousness though, yeah, this whole thing is just really just being blown up way out of proportion, and all it does is just lead to fan bases like asking questions, or, you know, not necessarily knowing who's right and who's wrong when it comes down to things. It's just really bad. Personally, I'm going to side with Rev on this, obviously, and while I don't necessarily agree with everything Rev does or says, there is a lot of moments where if he's speaking sense, I'm going to acknowledge it and speak some sense back, you know? I'm going to give him his props, which I've done before. So, you know, it just is what it is. But anyway, that's basically all I wanted to necessarily talk about. I know this is a long ass video, but it is what it is. I mean, if you sat down through NuxTaku's 22-minute video the entire way, and if you're a fanboy of his, then you should have no problem watching a 30 plus minute video maybe of mine. So especially as someone that's like a non-existing person, I'm gonna be honest with you. So that's essentially all I wanted to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification on your way out. Also follow me on Twitter, and if license to the channel, Patreon is available as well. And if you decide to talk about this in the comments or have a fight, be careful. Don't. I actually don't recommend that you have a fight, honestly. Not having a war or anything like that, because a war means consequences. But I can't necessarily control what people do. But it is what it is. But anyway, that's pretty much all I want to say for this one. Again, until this, boy Jay, sign off. Have a blessed day.